Then Alicia observes the dishonest sentinel commander tormenting a young woman, and she discerns that all the sentinels feign ignorance because they are apprehensive of him, as he is of aristocratic lineage. Then Alicia devises a scheme to deliver the young woman, so she trails the commander and exclaims boisterously, asserting that the injury Prince Seth inflicted upon her aches intensely. She seizes the young woman and implores her to escort her back to her chambers forthwith, or she will perish instantly. Consequently, she effectively liberates the young woman from the unscrupulous commander. Afterward, we perceive Alicia with Hakami, clarifying that she possessed no alternative because the commander appeared to be a menacing individual. Hakami cautions her to be more prudent, as provoking Prince Seth could be lethal. Alicia informs her she doesn't trust Prince. Seth is a murderer. He may only slay those who attempt to slay him, like the former princess who brandished a blade against him. She confesses that she desires to vanquish him. Hakami is astonished by Alicia's valor after discovering Prince Seth's character, and recollects her dialogue with the aged monarch, who had depended on her to expose the reality. Upon reverting to the present, Alicia inquires of Hakami about the significance of foreign princesses in the fortress. But Hakami does not respond and states that alternatively, she should instruct Alicia in self-preservation. The scene subsequently transitions to Alicia and her companion Anne exchanging garments. Anne questions, "What do you aspire to accomplish, my princess?" Alicia answers that she intends to achieve two objectives with a single action. The scene then moves to the corrupt commander striking one of the sentinels before departing. What action would you undertake if you were in Alicia's position? Would you jeopardize confronting someone influential, such as the dishonest commander, even if it could imperil you? He spots Princess Alicia on his path and remarks, "I haven't encountered this creation previously." He notices Alicia holding the feather and quickly rushes toward her, saying, "Touching the prince's belongings is a serious offense," while grabbing her arm. "You'll face severe punishment for this," he warns. She snaps back, "Let go of me, brute," and then looks up, revealing her identity. He realizes she's Alicia and suspects she has set a clever trap. She cries out, "Help! Help! This brute has assaulted the princess." A crowd gathers, and he tries to explain that it was a misunderstanding. But she counters, "How could it be a mistake? You've left a visible mark. Didn't you say, touching the prince's belongings is a serious offense? Well, I am one of the prince's possessions, so you should be punished." The commander of the guards, furious, growls, "You're just a princess from a small kingdom." But Alicia, brimming with confidence, replies, "Is a guard commander ranked higher than a princess, you fool?" The commander, enraged, insults her and charges at her to strike, but she effortlessly dodges him. Her friend had trained her to focus on specific weak points, explaining that everyone has vulnerabilities. Even with your smaller frame, if you strike the right spot, it'll be hard for your opponent, her friend had said. Alicia takes this advice and delivers a powerful blow to the commander, knocking him to the ground. She then orders the guards to throw him in the dungeon. As the guards whisper among themselves about what Prince Seth will say upon his return, Alicia calmly tells them, "Don't worry, this will work in our favor. It's clear this commander was corrupt and unfit for his role. His rightful place is in the dungeon, under strict discipline. Be sure to inform Prince Seth of everything." The onlookers are stunned by the princess's words, murmuring, "This princess seems different from the others." They gather around her, clearly impressed, as she captivates everyone's attention. About 10 days later, Prince Seth finally returns and asks his attendants, "Did anything unusual happen while I was gone? The atmosphere in the fortress feels different. What has occurred?" One of his advisors whispers something in his ear, specifically mentioning what Alicia had done to the commander of the guards. As Alicia walks by, Prince Seth stops her and demands, "What have you done? You used my name to throw a man in the dungeon. Do you think you rule this fortress?" She calmly responds, "It was necessary. He was causing trouble for everyone. This is your fault for letting him act unchecked." Furious, Prince Seth declares, "I'll punish you severely this time, and I'll end your life." Alicia, unfazed, gently pushes the dagger away and replies, "You won't do that. First of all, I would never harm you." Just then, a parrot named Nina flies in, playfully interacting with Alicia and clearly enjoying her company. Prince Seth says, "I'll assign you to care for Nina. I'll also keep you close to me. You can refuse if you want." But Alicia turns down all his offers. The parrot, meanwhile, keeps calling her names, which irritates her. To get back at him, she takes his favorite seeds and starts eating them. The parrot, enraged, pecks at her head in frustration. Alicia starts crying, explaining that she was only joking and didn't really eat his food. At that moment, Seth arrives, and she pleads with him to get his bird under control. Seth sits down on the sofa, and Alicia covers him with a blanket to keep him warm, teasingly calling herself a thoughtful queen. Seth coldly responds, "You're just a servant here." Alicia mutters to herself, remembering that she came here with the intention of becoming queen and protecting Fortuna. But in her eyes, Seth only sees queens as tools to legitimize his conquests. She had hoped to change him, but now she realizes it may be impossible. Seth then requests her to depart, and Alicia concurs but mentions that she'll return as she's accountable for his bird. Seth notifies her to prepare herself since they will be voyaging to Galgata soon. Alicia proceeds to the other maids and relays what Seth stated, and they all applaud her. No one from here has ever journeyed to Galgata before. She notes that Seth hasn't completely acknowledged her yet. Hakami, one of the maids, indicates that since the royal nuptials are in spring, if she is summoned, they might be inquisitive to observe her, especially since they've obtained conflicting accounts concerning her. Another maid supplements that Hakami's remarks often possess concealed implications, and that the Sentinel commander's recent substitution could be a crucial juncture for Alicia, as the parental sanction is indispensable for any matrimony. This exhilarates Alicia, contemplating it might be simpler to shield Fortuna if his kin accept her. Meanwhile, we perceive a sentinel conversing with a servant that he's heard the monarch of Galgata is a stringent ruler, recognized for expanding the kingdom and leading his subjects. The servant replies that she knows him well, as he is O's grandfather, but she appends that Prince Seth must be exceptional, as he is the youngest of 3 brothers, yet he is the one to inherit the throne. The sentinel remarks that only those who serve Prince Seth would genuinely comprehend him. Later, we observe Alicia with another sentinel who advises her that certain subjects are forbidden. She then returns to Seth and apprises him that she's eager to proceed directly to the origin, Galgata. She anticipates encountering his brothers and the monarch. Vincent cautions her against utilizing the parrot as a pretext to converse with him, and inquiries whether she believes this is a propitious chance to acquire their approval. He advises her not to harbor excessive expectations, as they are not the type of individuals she perceives them to be. "Do not fret at all," she informs him. "Both my father and my great-grandfather are peculiar individuals, but what I most anticipate is becoming better acquainted with you through encountering your family. I desire to draw closer to you as your prospective queen." Seth replies, "I am aware you were reared like a nun, despite being a princess, and for the benefit of your nation, you were unexpectedly dispatched as a hostage bride, so refrain from complaining when your future spouse treats you coldly. Simply continue fulfilling your obligations to your nation without resentment or apprehension." Alicia forfeits hope in him. She doesn't comprehend him. She then states, "This isn't loyalty. It's my decision." Seth recognizes that she is dauntless and untroubled by anything, pure-hearted and unblemished by dishonesty. "Those are precisely the attributes I despise most in this world," he declares. Nina, distressed, yells at him, "You're incredibly foolish. Have you never cherished anyone before?" She then ponders to herself, "I've damaged matters now. What course of action shall I take? I overreacted, and now I'm more grieved than enraged or disenchanted." The following day, Anne mentions that it will require 10 days to arrive at Galgata and remarks that Nina appears fatigued and frustrated. Nina responds, "That's untrue. I'm very content." Hakami then approaches, cautioning Nina to exercise care since the ground is saturated from the previous day's torrential downpour, and they intend to take an alternative path due to a landslide obstructing the customary road. Nina reflects, "I'm appreciative for having my personal carriage. My mind feels as overcast as this sky." On the expedition, heavy rain persists, making Nina feel foolishly scared. Abruptly, her carriage loses traction and skids on the muddy terrain, drifting further afield. Nina awakens, realizing she's been ejected to the side. "I'm fortunate to have lived through this," she expresses, but she swiftly notices the bird is absent and detects it high in the sky. She commences searching for him, becoming weary and exclaiming, "My dress is coated in mud. Hakami will be furious." Therefore, wondering if Anne is anxious, her shoulder commences aching, prompting her to question if she has committed a terrible error. She feels her body growing heavier and succumbs, stating, "I believed I could become queen," and she realizes she's lost and muses, "No one will come to rescue me because, after all, I'm not the authentic princess. I might perish here anonymously. I yearn to return to Fortuna, back home." Unexpectedly, Nina perceives something approaching and observes a monstrous being with golden eyes. A tiger appears, and she becomes terrified, crying out for Azo. Thus, her ordeal commences with the princess being assailed by a ferocious tiger. At the critical juncture, Seth rescues her by shooting the tiger. Her bird flies to her, and Seth informs her that without Nina, she would have become this beast's meal. He then provides her with water, and she expresses her gratitude. Seth mentions he discovered a location where they can repose, and when she inquires about the others, he says he left indicators for them to follow. In the morning, however, she ponders to herself, "Will we be isolated until morning?" The scene shifts to Hakami and Anne, and the rest who are apprehensive about the princess. So one of them states she wasn't within the carriage, so she must have departed it. Hakami desires to search for the princess, but as a lady-in-waiting, she can only place faith in her fortunate star, referring to the princess. The scene reverts to the princess trailing Seth. She requests him to decelerate and remarks that he hasn't glanced back even once. She considers it remarkable that she's not solitary. They reach the resting place, and Seth sits down, instructing her to maintain some distance and hand him the water vessel. She perceives he's injured in the abdomen from the tiger's assault, but he insists she doesn't approach him. She inquires, "Did the tiger inflict this upon you?" He dismisses it, asserting it doesn't pain him. But she cautions him that injuries from wild creatures can be lethal. He retorts, "I haven't performed sufficient benevolent actions to expire like this. I'm still forfeiting my battles against individuals. Simply allow me to rest." He loses consciousness. In his dream, Seth recalls sitting with a sage who informed him his transgressions could be absolved through daily supplications, and that he would be shielded from the royal family. Thus, the sage commenced instructing him in everything he needed to know, and stated that purging the wicked king's blood was essential for his safety. Seth awakens to discover the princess beside him. She informs him he has a fever, and requests him not to move because he was speaking in his sleep. She assesses his temperature with her hand and remarks, "I used to perform this for an ailing child. It transmits some of the heat to my hand." He mocks her technique, which provokes her. She rebukes him, stating, "It's only instinctive to care for him." She adds that his garments are dry, but his feet are damp from the frigid night. Seth retorts, "There are superior methods to warm up, Your Highness," drawing her closer. She responds, "That's pointless without affection. It's just squalor." He counters, "Love is a malediction. Clinging to anything beyond suffering and demise is a deception." She retorts, "You feel that way because you're isolated. You don't grasp what it signifies to be exceptional. Why don't you attempt feigning affection for me? Therefore, the sole method to demonstrate my error is to try. If you are unsuccessful, I'll concede defeat. So pretend to care for me, just as you care for Nina." Abruptly, Nina the bird squawks, and Seth states it must have detected something. The princess proposes investigating since Seth is injured. She retrieves a stone for defense and discovers a gloomy cavern from which a small tiger cub appears. She comprehends it's the offspring of the tiger they killed previously. Feeling compassion for it, she resolves to take it back with her, stating it's too young to endure alone. Seth cautions her that the cub will mature to be just like its parent and is fated to perish. She argues, "You cannot assess everything by its exterior. You don't determine destiny. Only God does." Seth silently contemplates the princess, thinking, she appears as though she's about to fracture at any instant, yet there isn't a single flaw in her. She's virtuous but astute, something beyond simple benevolence. Why are my eyes drawn to something I'm supposed to obliterate? Seth then proposes summoning someone proficient in caring for animals to attend to the cub, noting that Nina the bird survived under comparable circumstances. The princess is elated and chooses to name the cub Navaria. Seth informs her he'll commence calling her Nina too, like her childhood appellation. She muses to herself, "He's restored my name in this location where no one knows me." At daybreak, the soldiers locate them. Seth stands resolute despite his wounds, unwilling to appear feeble. The princess offers to assist him if he feels like he'll collapse, pledging she hasn't informed anyone about his fainting spell. She reflects to herself, "He's dissimilar from Azu, but perhaps I'll feign affection for him a little too, not as much as Azu, naturally. No one can supplant Azu. I hope you'll pardon me for this." As they prepare to depart, she comments, "Once we're out of here, we'll reach Galgada." He reflects on the history of the Northern Territory, which was formerly impoverished but became formidable over 4 generations by assembling forces and annexing neighboring territories. Now Galgada is a potent nation, governing 5 territories, celebrated for its strength as the Great Galgada Kingdom. The scene concludes with Seth and the princess walking together. Seth inquires, "What troubles you, Nina?" She responds, instructing him not to address her by that name. He questions her, inquiring why she dislikes the name since it was her childhood name, Alicia. Inwardly, Alicia ponders, "Seth believes Nina is my childhood name." The scene transitions to the grand reception where everyone greets Prince Seth. Alicia is amazed at the cordial welcome he receives. Shortly, the second Prince Yor, the third Prince Beidou, and the fourth Prince Tobido greet their elder brother, Prince Seth. When Alicia begins to speak, Yor becomes irate and orders her to be silent. Beidou intercedes, calming Yor and reminding him that the king directed them to welcome Fortuna's princess. Tobido then praises Alicia's exquisite blue eyes. Alicia introduces herself. "I am Alicia Seth Fortner. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance." One of the brothers remarks to Seth that he's never observed such captivating blue eyes before, but marriage to a priestess is a serious offense. Tum-dared Seth silences them, declaring that he didn't solicit their viewpoints. This incites outrage among his brothers, who accuse him of believing he's superior and behaving like a king before ascending the throne. As the dispute escalates, nearly becoming physical, Alicia intervenes, imploring them to cease. "You are princes. You are expected to conduct yourselves accordingly. And you, Prince Seth, overstepped in speaking to your brothers." Later, in her chamber, Alicia reflects on the situation, reprimanding herself. "I spoiled it. My scheme to endear myself to his family and become queen has failed, but I'll attempt again. I must become queen and safeguard Fortuna." A maid enters and informs Alicia that she'll be sharing a chamber with Prince Seth tonight. Embarrassed, Alicia hesitates, but proceeds to his room. When she arrives, Seth inquires, "What is your purpose here?" Startled, Alicia explains she'll be sleeping in the same room, but insists on sleeping on the floor. Seth refuses, stating the floor is too frigid. Before retiring, Alicia apologizes for what transpired earlier. Seth coldly replies, "Ordinarily, I'd make you forfeit your life, but I reconsidered after observing your foolish countenance." He adds, "They are my brothers, but not my full-blooded siblings." Alicia responds, "I would have been overjoyed to have siblings, even ones like them. When the father passes away, having no siblings means bidding farewell alone. That's sorrowful, lonesome, and arduous." Seth confesses he never experienced that sensation. When his mother perished, he didn't feel much. Alicia tells him that he might have been too distraught to feel anything. She implores him not to remain distant from the king and his brothers. When he doesn't respond, Alicia declares that he'll learn much commencing now. Perplexed, Seth listens as Alicia asserts she's too apprehensive to slumber in a new location, yet she soon falls asleep soundly. Seth observes her serene demeanor and wonders she doesn't appear anxious or cautious whatsoever. As he watches her surrounded by the gentle fauna, he too falls asleep, experiencing a rare moment of tranquility. In her dream, Alicia sees a strange girl. Suddenly, Nina's cry awakens everyone. Alicia finds herself beside Seth, incapable of movement. She notices his gleaming eyelashes and crimson eyes. Seth summons Nina and the tiger cub to join them for breakfast. So Alicia reflects, "He appears different today. His eyes almost appeared as if they were smiling." Later, Seth requests Alicia to select his attire, claiming it's the responsibility of a lady-in-waiting. Annoyed, she recalls that he's a prince, making such requests customary. The scene transitions to Alicia inquiring Seth about his intentions regarding Fortuna's princess. He reveals his aim to utilize her to conquer Fortuna, stating, "I haven't acted yet because I intend to employ force. I possess the strength the other princes lack. Conquering Fortuna has been an objective since our great-grandfather's generation. I aspire to achieve it under my reign." He declares his decision to modify the line of succession, granting the throne to whoever conquers Fortuna. The brothers discuss this disclosure. Yor confides in his companion, vowing not to permit Seth or Beidou to defeat him. "I'll become king irrespective of the necessary measures." Tobito proposes utilizing Fortuna's princess's offspring as leverage. Whoever secures the princess will become Galgada's next king. The scene transitions to the king encircled by courtiers, proclaiming, "The covenant has been passed under the direction of the one who governs Fortuna's destiny. The new king shall be Azor Fortuna."